Alright, so today we're going to take a look at the Boss SY-200 synthesizer and the routing options that we have with the Line 6 HX Stomp. So I did one of these the other day where it was the synthesizer with the simplifier pedal, which is all analog. This one is digital. We have a few different routing options. We don't have XLR coming off of this one the way that we did with the simplifier, so it's not going to be exactly the same. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got though. So I'm running my guitar straight into the synthesizer right now, and then just straight out the output into the input of the HX Stomp, and then that is going to my interface here. So that's my clean tone. That would be the sound that I'm sending to the Stomp here. So we see it's working pretty good there, but it's going to be the same thing that we had in the other video, excuse me, where if I start putting amps and other things that I need to run, it's going to start affecting the signal here. So let's pick an amp. What if I do like the Fender? I like the Jazz, but let's mix it up. Let's do the US Princess. Move it over a block there by hitting Action, and then drop in here one of the cabs. And what do I want? Let's just go US Princess on that as well. And let's see. So with this, as you can see, it does affect the tone here. Let's turn off the amp. Let's turn both of them off. Turn on the cab. Kind of helps tame it a bit. And then that's with the amp itself. And then the cab. See, it gets pretty wild there. And that's the guitar signal and the synth signal there. So while this is an option that we can do with it, it kind of limits us a little bit. So let's try something different here. I'm going to drop the volume on that, and let's see. I'm going to keep this cable going in there. I'm just going to switch it from the output to the effects loop send, and then I'm going to use another patch cable to go from the send of the Stomp back to the return of the synth pedal, and then from the output of the synth pedal, we'll go to the effects loop return left. Okay. So let's see. Oh, my volume's all the way down. Gotta remember that. So right now, even though I'm plugged into the synth and the HX Stomp is in the loop of that, I'm sending the direct signal. So that's why it's still affected by the amp and the cab and everything, but I have no synth sound even though it's on right here, and my expression pedal's all the way down. So again, that's because direct signal is being sent from my send here, and I can even double check that by going to menu. In the second page we have send and return, and under well, really above send, we can see where it says direct. I can change that to effect, and now we're back to how we were wired before, basically, where this is running in front of this kind of. Now, that's not the way that I prefer to do it. I like the flexibility of having it to direct and be able to run the regular signal. So let's back out of here. Let's see. So let's get the signal routed into here. So I'm using the effects loop left and right. So let's do this. There we go. I'm going to back up here, and let's drop down, and under send and return, let's do mono. What do the stereo options look like? Yeah, I don't need one of those. Mono, effects loop left. What does effects loop right sound like? So it's getting them off both signals there. So again, this is the signal running into the into the amp and everything. So what would be my options? I could hit action on that and drop that down into a B path. All right, so now see these are still affected. But I have the option to blend this in right now. And let's take a look at our split that we have back here. So I'm going to move the mixer back this way so I can maybe put delay and reverb that would affect both the regular signal and the synth signal here. But in the split, what we can do is we have the options for balance A, balance B, and that would be the A path and the B path, whether they're going to the left or to the right or just having it centered there. So you could have like your main signal centered and then the synth kind of sent off to the right. Theoretically, I'm not hearing much of a difference right now, and that might be because of the way that we're plugged in. Let's see one of our other options. I hit this button to bring up the different splits. So we have A-B split, that's an option 2, and this only has one thing where I can go A path to the left, B path to the right. Now it's not doing anything, and again, that could have something to do with the way that we are routed right now, because we're still hitting the synth pedal first, and then we're going to this, and then a few back and forth things. So again, guitars go into the synth pedal, then we're sending to the input of this, coming out the send of the stomp into the return of the synth pedal, and then out the output into the return. And this is working, but I'm not getting the flexibility that I might like to be able to leave this on and it kind of blend it. It does kind of work, but I'd like to be able to use that A-B split. So let's see what happens if I change it around a different order here. So when you unplug the input of the synth, it just turns off there. So let's go ahead and do some of this. And I've turned down the volume of this thing, so we shouldn't be getting a ton of pops or anything coming through. So let's think about this. I'm going to do guitar straight into the HX Stomp now. Oop, that was into the expression. Right into there. And then what can I do? I'm going to go from the send of the stomp to the input of this, and that turns us back on. And then let's do this. I'm going to come straight from the output into the return of that. Let's see if this changes anything for us. I still need to turn my volume back up. There we go. So we still have that sound in there. So again, I'm guitar, and then effects loop send goes to this and then returns. So a little bit less cabling. If I hit this, then it comes back in. Okay, cool. And I can pull that back. It works. But it's still kind of an even split. What happens if So now the way that we're plugged in, go into the HX Stomp first, and then with this in the loop of the stomp, instead of the stomp being in the loop of the in the loop of the synthesizer. That gives us this A-B split option. So this would be like all synth. Of course, I have the dry signal mixed into that. I can drop it down. So now I get like nothing when this is up. So now it is a split of my sound going to this. And I don't feel like there's really any noticeable latency, like what I was getting with some of the other stuff with the simplifier. I don't know if that has to do with these both being digital units and the simplifier being analog, but I'll have to do a little bit more experimenting with that. And there's, of course, tons of sound options that I can go through and add to this. Let's maybe try something real quick. Let's add a delay in this spot, and this is a delay that's going to affect both signals. And let's add a room reverb in there as well. Let's see. Reverb, legacy, room. Nice and easy. Still back that out. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I can just blend that back in with the expression. See, now everything, they're kind of blended together there. Let's see. I could do this, though, put the mixer after this, and now only the guitar stuff is getting the delay and the reverb, and the synth is still the same. Dry signal back in. Let's try to see if that added any weird phasey stuff. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Now, I've only used like 1 or 2 sounds on this thing, so there's a lot more options that I can do. Let me move that back over there. Yeah, so lots of cool things that I can do with this. And one thing that I'd probably like to explain deeper in another video is like this A-B split right here. I can do kind of our own options between the snapshots, and the snapshots is not something that I've really talked about yet, but within each of these presets that you have here, obviously you're limited on the amp and the cab. You can't switch between different amps and cabs just by hitting a button unless it's already loaded in here. But what you can do is affect some of the parameters within it from the snapshots. So you could have like a rhythm, a lead, or let's say a clean, a crunch, and a lead tone on 3 different snapshots there, and you could have the split A-B set differently for each of those. So for example, let's maybe just set one of those up, and I'll talk more about snapshots in another time. So I'm going to hit the 2 page buttons together, and that brings up the controller assign right there. So for the split A-B, you only have the route to option that you can control there. But for the controller, it says none, expression 1, expression 2. So you could blend that with an expression pedal or using the foot switch. And the foot switches have other options where you have minimum value, maximum value that you're setting there. So that's kind of cool. But what I'm looking for, you could do MIDI, is actually the snapshot. So when you set that to it, then within the snapshots, you can have that be like 3 different things. So let's do this. Let's save. I have a feeling I could mess this up easily and have to start over. So let's do this. To get to snapshots, I'm going to back out of that. And then you see when I press the page over, I'm going from the stomp mode, which I have nothing assigned, presets, then you can scroll through the presets, and then these snapshots right here. So when it's all white like that, that's snapshot mode. So, sorry about that. Let's do this. I'm going to set A as being like 85% A path. And then on the second snapshot, it's going to be an even split. And on the third snapshot, let's have it be almost all the way B right there. So now you'll see when I go through those, how it changes. So this one is, let me turn off that delay. Okay, and then I just hit this one. You can see it brought the delay back on too. It was interesting. So again, that's back to no delay and just mostly the dry signal. And then we can go back to here. Let's do this. Let's turn off the reverb for this one. And then that way, when I go to the third snapshot, everything comes back up. I've still got some dry sound coming through because that's the way that this one is set. Like I said, I'll have to do a deeper dive into snapshots specifically and how I can use all this stuff together to work in. But right now, the way that I've got these plugged in, I think that this is probably the best option, which is running to the stomp first and then having the synth pedal in the effects loop, because I really am having a hard time just hearing if there even is any latency. And then this kind of just puts it on its own path. Like I could come over here, just turn it off. Wait, oh, that's turning on and off the split. So you see I've still got my regular signal with the delay, of course. Back over to this one. All right, so I'll have to do a more in-depth video explaining the snapshots and some of the other routing options. But if I was just using these two pedals together, I think this would be probably the ideal way, which would be plugging guitar direct into the HX Stomp and then send to this and then just straight out the output to the return here. And then I guess that would leave the effects loop in this open for me to add an additional effect in there to kind of change the path too. So I'll save that for another time as well. Appreciate you guys sticking with it this long, and probably what I'll do next is a video routing the synthesizer with my TC Electronics Plethora, and I expect some different outcomes and options with that too. So look forward to that, and I will see you then. Thanks.